For next, is there any transverse plane deformities in the foot? So because you've looked at the leg and you've looked for rotation in the leg, in the foot, because the foot is at 90 degrees to the leg, you'd look for you'd look to see if there's it's things like the talar head and neck that are more adducted than they should, or staying in the adducted position that they are in fetal life, or not going through the rotation, but the movement. So basically the talar head and neck are adducted in relationship to the trochlear surface of the talus by 33 degrees. And they abduct, the talar head and neck abducts, so it's only 22 degrees in relationship to the talar, to the trochlear surface. The other change is the metatarsals. Sometimes you get a condition called metatarsus adductus, where the metatarsals are adducted at their joint with the tarsal bones. Metatarsus adductus you'll do with Neil, and he'll chat about that. So, any condition that's below the knee, what sort of position is the patella in? If you've got an in-toeing gait and it's coming from below the knee, what sort of position would the patella be in when they're walking? What position would it function around?
Internal rotate.
No.
External.
Be around the frontal plane, yeah? If it's coming from the hip, then your patella would be, certainly when they stand up, be looking at each other, they'd be squinting. So if it's above the knee joint, you get this squinting patella, but if it's below the knee joint that the problem is arising from, then basically the patella will look face forward and function around that frontal plane. So how do you find out if there's something in the foot? Well, you can just, what you do is you just let the foot sort of relax on the bench, and then you can take the centre of the heel and you bring the line forwards, from the centre of the heel forwards, and that should go through, it shouldn't go lateral to the third toe. If it goes lateral to the third toe, then that suggests that there's some problem in the transverse plane, it's adducted in the foot. There's some adduction of the talar head and neck in relationship to the trochlear surface, or you've got metatarsus adductus. So as you can see, when you go through the centre of the heel here and bring that line forwards, it's going between the second and the third toe, which is what you would expect. And so that says there's no adductus problems within that foot. If, when you put your pen at the centre of the heel, or whatever you're going to use, a ruler, or just draw a line on, or by eye, if it's going through the lateral to the third toe, then you've got some either talar head and neck adductus or some metatarsus adductus. So all these conditions are normally associated with in-toeing. We used to treat in-toeing, but we don't tend to treat it anymore. The biggest problem with young kids is they tend to trip over their own feet if they're toeing. And then if they trip over their own feet, they fall a lot and end up with bruises and cuts on the faces. What we used to do is, there used to be a thing called a gate plate. We don't use it anymore, but the gate plate used to be, it goes behind the first metatarsal head. It's rigid material, and then it's cut, and it goes from behind the first metatarsal head, it goes up to the apex of the fifth toe. So it's absolutely rigid material. Now, in order to toe off, you'll get a crease on your shoe, and you've got to bend your foot in that direction to toe off. Yeah? And what this gate plate does is it's blocking that motion, So what it does is it makes you twist on your first met head and twist out. So you're externally rotating at the hip, and then that allows you to move forwards. The problem is that in some people it worked actually, it did do quite a good job. But if the blood supply to the head of the femur is through the neck, the femoral neck, and it's not an abundant supply. It can get damaged. And if you're taking the hip joint almost to its end of its range of motion by externally rotating it, there's a potential possibility of damage to the femoral head and neck. So it was basically, which is the worst, damage to the femoral head through a lack of blood supply or towing in. And the worst is damage to the femoral head. So that's why the gate plates got dropped. But the gate plates, even when we did use them, were always controversial about whether we should or shouldn't use them. So they got stopped basically, and they've not been used for years.